Follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Those who love salads love Ken's, born in a great steakhouse.
The Family Fourth at Lake Union on King 5.
It's a new day.
This is New Day Northwest. Now, here's Margaret Larson.
Wow, we have a lot of beautiful stuff and a colorful audience. Look at everybody. Good morning and welcome to New Day Northwest. We are eating particularly well today on the show. Plus, we're taking a little off-campus visit to one of Tom Douglas's great restaurants, the Brave Horse Tavern. Subway restaurants are working toward a healthier Washington state with their annual Subway Games. We'll tell you all about it today, and we'll send a few brave competitors into a New Day sporting game just for extra fun. Tech expert Brian Westbrook, especially useful over summer vacation. And beauty guru Stacey Cox shows us the must-haves for our summer beach bag, plus a few gifts for everybody in the audience today. But starting off the serious subject, we know you've heard by now the story of a 68-year-old school bus monitor in upstate New York who was bullied to tears by a group of 7th graders. The abuse was videotaped, and a 10-minute clip showing Karen Klein being taunted mercilessly has been viewed more than 7.5 million times on YouTube. That video is so disturbing that many people responded with donations to Klein and had lots of people, and especially parents, wondering how it could happen and what we should do about it, which is why it's our New Day hot topic today. Joining me is Deborah Swickel, a former bus driver for the Gig Harbor School District who can relate to some of what Karen Klein experienced, and Corinne Gregory, an expert and author of the book Breaking the Bullying Cycle. It's great to have you both here. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Margaret.
Deborah, let's talk about this, what it's like to be a bus driver. I know most kids are good most of the time, but bus drivers and bus monitors face some pretty serious experiences. How long did you do that job?
I did it for about 10 years.
And what was your experience like?
Well, a majority of it was good. Majority of the children are good and sweet. The experiences that I have had, though, is, well, I had one child knock me downstairs and tell me that he was going to kill me. And he was removed from the bus, but the fear that I had for that till the end of the year, until my run was over, was still there, because I had to drive by his house every morning. Mm-hmm. And he may not have done anything like that, but I still had that fear inside me.
And probably you take a job like this because you love kids,
oh,
and then you're so
immensely.
surprised and stunned when something of that nature occurs.
I am, absolutely.
Were there other experiences that were difficult for you?
Yeah, I had one experience where kids were throwing backpacks at me and throwing apples and hitting me in the head.
Do you know? I mean, what is it, a gang sort of thing? I don't mean in an official sort of way,
no.
But one kid starts something and others join in.
I think they're just rambunctious, and they feel like a school bus is not a monitored area of the school system. You know, in school you have to be a certain way, at home you have to be a certain way. Well, the bus is a free-for-all, and it's not.
There was an incident apparently with T-shirts that I'd like you to tell us about. What happened?
Well, a few kids were swearing at me and throwing their backpacks at me, and I finally got a camera on the bus. And even after I had the camera on the bus, the parents were still not sure if really they think I was causing the problem,
right.
That the bus driver was
not
the
my
problem.
kid.
Not my kids,
yeah.
Yes. And at the end of the year, they wore these shirts on the bus that said, "Thank God the driver's going. We hate the bus driver." And they had drawn these
That's a nice
pictures.
reward at the end of the year.
Well, the parents stood outside the bus like this, watching their kids board, and it was unreal to me that they were doing this. Mm-hmm. And I went home and I cried. And I thought, what can I do to be different? And so when I got back on the bus, I thought, well, I like to write my kids' books, and I like to read them, and so why not sign their shirts? And so I said, can I sign your shirt? And they're like, what?
And did it turn things around a bit?
I think it did for several of the boys. They were like, well, yeah, and, sign it here and sign it there. And one gentleman did get off the bus, take off his shirt, throw it in the ground, and stomp on it. And he was angry that I wasn't angry. But actually, I really did like those boys.
Yeah, and so, it's such a confusing thing. Corinne, the reason why we wanted you to be here was you've written this book, and you talk about this. We're very concerned about kids bullying other kids, and of course adults abusing children, unacceptable in all circumstances. But after that video came up, we started to wonder, how often does this happen?
It happens all the time. The media has brought a lot of awareness to the problem of bullying, but we haven't really gone to the next step that says, now that we see how pervasive it is, what do we do about it? But you'd ask the question, Margaret, about how does this start? And I keep making the point whenever I speak to the groups or the educators and such, we think of bullying as it happens between one victim and one or more perpetrators. But the reality is it's a cultural thing. And what Devorah is pointing out is it may be one or two kids that start it. The next thing it's a Lord of the Flies pack mentality.
That was exactly what came to mind for me. That's what my 7th grade bus was like, just a rolling scene out of Lord of the Flies. And it's disturbing to sort of think that it hasn't, changed as aware as we are of violence, as prevalent as cameras are in school buses and with cell phones and whatnot, that this can go on and that it's so apparently difficult to stop. So as a parent, what should you be asking your children? What should you be doing?
Well, you need to be aware as a parent of what is going on with your child, regardless of whether you think they're a bully or a victim. You really need to look for behavioral changes. Is a normally outgoing child suddenly quiet? Is a child that would normally be very quiet, are they suddenly acting out? Particularly if they're acting out towards siblings or if they start acting out toward other adults. That's a clear sign. Have a conversation with them at that point, but don't just assume, hey, everything's okay, it's just kids being kids, because that's part of the problem. We keep just assuming, hey, bullying's been going on forever, no big deal.
I think so too. We blow it off because we think we've been through it, and that allows a circumstance in which it can escalate and people can really get hurt, or in your case, very frightened. And it's not, it's simply not fair to the kids who behave well to have to ride on a bus where such things are occurring. So if a parent is confronted with a report from a school bus driver or monitor or someone from the school saying your child is doing X, Y, or Z on the bus, what is the appropriate response?
Well, I can tell you the knee-jerk response is, of course, not my kid. My kid would never do this. But the appropriate response is, okay, be at least willing to listen. Because people in the administration and the educators are not going to your child or the parent and saying, you know what, you've got a bad kid. That's not what they're saying. They're saying this child may have a problem. And let's fix this not only for your own child's sake, but for everybody's sake. But remember, they also have your own child's welfare at heart.
Absolutely.
So instead of getting defensive, which is natural, at least be willing to listen. And maybe it turns out it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it wasn't your child. Maybe your child got sucked into something that was bigger than just he or she. But at least be willing to listen.
Right.
And that's really hard. I mean, I'm a parent myself. If somebody came to me with that, of course I'd feel like, oh, that can't be. But
and it's very hard for the other kids on the bus to speak up, right? Because they just are fearful that they'll become the target of the bullying.
Well, I had a student on the bus that was really angry at me and lashing out, and I wrote him up several times, and then I decided I need to do something differently. And I went in the school and I started asking about him and saying what, his home life, or is there something bothering him? Because I just knew it couldn't have been me, because I was being happy.
You don't look like the sort of person who would really hack people off that much.
And I finally found, parents were getting divorced.
Yeah.
He was going home alone. And so I found something that he liked, which was games. So I asked my daughters, how does this game play and what do they do and what's so cool about it? And I started talking to him about it. And by the end of the year, he stopped smarting off. He stopped swearing. And he started talking to me, little bits and pieces, but enough to know that I didn't always just see what he wasn't doing right, that I was trying to find things that he was doing right.
And that there was a kid really kind of in trouble there underneath that behavior, which is another reason why we as adults need to pay attention.
And not only that, Margaret, one of the things that people don't really understand is that if you take a look at bullying, it's on a continuum of behavior issues. It's at the very extreme end of something that starts with just plain old disrespect to peers and to teachers and to adults. Then it gets into things like cheating, lying, stealing, integrity issues, all the way out to bullying. But unfortunately, we have this Band-Aid mentality here in our society that says we'll deal with it way out here. When instead of dealing with prevention
You need
here,
to be proactive.
you need to be proactive, and we need to deal with it out here, and that'll solve all sorts of problems, including bullying.
Thank you both so much. I'm sorry that you went through those things, but I thank you for the service you gave to your school district.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully we can all learn something from this, and just as parents, get involved a little bit more, ask questions, and listen if there's a report that comes through. Coming up later, we're going to get our game on to help kick off the Subway Washington Games, promoting healthy eating and fitness. Plus, Brian Westbrook shows off some super sweet tech gizmos for travel. But first, our beauty expert Stacey Cox is back with her beach bag favorites to keep you looking fresh all summer. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you both so much.